Namaste. 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 Many years ago, I traveled to Nepal and to the Himalaya in very, very high mountains. And people greet one another by saying Namaste. And I asked the people, what does that mean? They said, it's Namaste. It's one of those things that's very difficult to translate. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
No.
They said, it's one of those difficult phrases that is sometimes incapable of being translated. But I kept on asking, and finally I met a pilgrim on his way to a holy site in Tibet, and he said, Namaste simply means that I salute the spirit within you. So I salute the spirit within you and all of us on this glorious day in this very sacred spot. It is good to be here. My name is Tim Leadem, and I am a lawyer for Eco-Justice, a firm in Vancouver that works for environmental groups for free. We will also work for Aboriginal peoples for free. I don't know whether Brenda likes me to say that or not. But we believe that the law should be free and freely available to people, particularly people who have environmental causes. And so we are a nonprofit society, and in January of this year, the Federal Minister of Natural Resources said that we were a terrorist organization. And just speaking for myself, I am very proud to wear that label. My ancestors on my mother's side came from Russia, and I want to begin by telling you a story. A long time ago, on the steppes of Russia, man and bear lived together in harmony. One day, a man said to the bear, "Come and help me plant this field, and we will share in the rewards in the harvest." And the bear said, "Well, I'm not sure, but I think I'll do that." So the bear said to the man, "What will I get from it?" The man said, "I will give you the tops of everything that we plant, and I will take the roots." And the bear said, "Okay." So the man went and he planted turnips in the field. And when harvesting time came along, the man went out with the bear and they harvested the crops together. And the bear went and ate all of the tops from the turnips. And the man took the turnips from the field and he put them in a great big cart. And he loaded them in this cart and he took them off to market. And the bear said to the man, "What's that in that cart?" The man said, "Those are the roots, those are the turnips." The bear said, "Do you mind if I try one of these turnips?" The man said, "You can have one." The bear ate from the turnip and said to the man, "You took the best." The turnips were really good and tasty. Another year went by, and the man said, "Bear, would you help me with the garden?" And the bear said, "Yes, but no trickery this time. This time I want the roots." So the man went with the bear and they planted wheat. And when harvest time came, the man took the wheat and made bread and ate the wheat and sold it in the market. And the bear had no roots, had just the roots, and could not live. bear got very angry with the man and said, "I do not want to have anything to do with you anymore." And to this day, in Russia at least, the bear and the man have very little to do with one another. I like to think that sometimes when I'm hiking in the wilderness and I see a bear standing up on 2 feet, it's remembering the time when we used to walk together. There is a company called Enbridge. Enbridge has a proposal that it is bringing to the people of Canada. It wants to build 2 pipelines. One pipeline will go from the tar sands in Alberta and take the thick, heavy tar material that is dug up from the earth, and it will transport it in that line to Kitimat. Another pipeline will go from Kitimat to the tar sands, and it will carry something called condensate. And the reason that condensate is going in the opposite direction is because the tar that comes from Alberta is so thick that you cannot pump it, you cannot send it through a pipeline unless you make it more fluid with the condensate. Part of that proposal would also build a very large superport in the town of Kitimat. And when the proposal is finished, if it finishes, there will be tankers coming from China and Japan and Asia and many other places in the world. And they will be taking that oil from Alberta and making gasoline for their vehicles. Before that happens, Enbridge by law is required to get a certificate from an entity called the National Energy Board. It is a federal organization, and the way that the National Energy Board works, particularly with respect to this proposal, is that evidence will be heard from communities, from peoples who may be affected, to a panel of 3 people. And the panel is called a joint review panel. And it's called that because it is a review panel jointly of the Department of the Environment and the Department of the National Energy. And it is only going to hear 2 things and determine 2 questions, but they are crucial questions. And the questions are these. Is the construction of this proposal, the 2 pipelines and the big port in Kitimat, going to have an adverse environmental impact? And that's question 1. And question 2 is this proposal in the public interest? Now, we all know the answer to number 1. At least I think I know the answer to number 1. How can you build a pipeline 1,000 kilometers in length, crossing 750 streams in the process, going across incredibly wilderness territory that no person has ever gone, drilling through mountains, drilling under rivers in many cases. The Department of Fisheries has already said that the consequences to the salmonid species, to the sockeye, to the early Stewart run that are up there would be severe in the event of any spill. The Department of the Environment has already said that there are no less than 20 species of animals and plants that will probably be rendered more prone to extinction if the pipeline is built. And yet we go through the charade of having hearings to make that determination of whether there will be environmental consequences. How could there not be? But it is that second question that bothers me and perhaps bothers you. What is in the public interest? What is the public? Who is the public? If you ask the people, the indigenous people, across whose territories this pipeline is scheduled to run, if you ask them whether it's in their interest to have this pipeline on their territories, many of them have already said no. If you ask the coastal First Nations if having tanker traffic with a very distinct possibility of spills that will devastate the ecosystem of the marine environment, whether or not having this tanker traffic is in the public interest, they would say no. So who says that pipelines such as these, and it's not the only proposal that people from Indigenous backgrounds will have to deal with in Canada. There's also a proposal by Kinder Morgan, who has a pipeline from Valemount, and they want to run it, twin it, so they can carry more oil to Vancouver. But who gets to say whether it's in the public interest in Canada? And that is a very good question. It's a question that I will help to answer by representing environmental groups. And when Brenda talked about the Cohen Commission, I had the privilege of representing many environmental groups who shared common interests with our First Nations brothers and sisters. As Kupi Mike said yesterday, we are all Indigenous. This is our land. This is your land here, which is your traditional land. But somewhere, each one of us has a tie to the land. Is it in the public interest to build this? And then I started thinking about corporations and the word corporation. The word corporation comes from an old Latin word, corpore, meaning body. So corporations have a body, and they're usually a body of people. But what corporations lack is a soul. They have no spirit. They have no soul. And I think that although I will do my best to represent environmental interests at hearings where the deck has already been stacked by government through changes of law, I think that the way that all of us can defeat this initiative of a corporation is to tie into our soul and invoke the spirit against it. I think that is the way that all of us can do this together. And I want to begin can end at the same time. Before I end, I want to thank the people and the chiefs of the Leadem for inviting me here, and for having the vision and the foresight to have this gathering, this sacred gathering, on such a sacred spot. I was watching birds circling. Earlier, I think we saw the spirit of a dear departed friend of Brenda's and many of you circle in the sky, and I thought of a poem by Rumi. Birds flying create big circles of freedom in the sky. How do they learn this? They fall, and in falling, there grow wings. I want you all to pray with me, because I believe in the power of prayer. This prayer has no words, but it has a lot of meaning. And you pray from inside of you. You resonate that powerful I want you to all pray with me, because what we are invoking is the spirit that will actually convince people finally, and corporations finally, to get a soul to do something that is really in the public interest, and to return the land to the people who value it, who welcome it.